Salvete omnes. This exercise brought to you by Mr. Freeze, chapter 39. We're just taking most of the chapter 39 vocab and synopsizing each one of the verbs, most of the verbs. First verb, cognosco, cognoscere, cognovi, cognitus, in the first person plural. So first, identify which conjugation the verb is. This is a third conjugation verb. You can tell by the principal parts, o, ere, and that's a short e, us. O, ere, us. If it's a third conjugation, that means that the present stem is found by chopping the o off of the first principal part. So the present stem of this verb is cognosc. The perfect stem of this verb is found by chopping the I off of the third principal part, cognob, and the supine stem from the fourth principal part and chopping off the us, cognit. We'll start with the indicative, active voice, and the passive voice, the present imperfect, and future. These three tenses in the active and passive are formed from the present stem, and the present stem of this third conjugation verb is found by chopping the O off the first principal part. So we can go ahead and write the present stem cognosc in each one of the blanks for the present, imperfect, and future, active, and passive voice. Now we're going to add the appropriate personal endings, the first person plural personal endings, to get the present to get the present tense in the active and then the passive voice. Now, we're not just going to add the mus, O-S-T, mus, first person plural, muss tisunt, M-U-S, because this third conjugation verb requires that we put an I before the stem and the personal ending. Cognoscimus, imus. The passive, the endings are ra, ris, tur, mur, mini, untur. And we want mur, the first person plural passive, mur, M-U-R, to correspond to mus. And like the active, we have to add the letter I, cognoscimur. The imperfect adds the letter E before the ba tense marker. So we get cognosce ba, and then the appropriate personal ending mus to get cognoscebamus. Passive exchanges mus with mur, so cognoscebamur. The future active, because this is a third conjugation verb, the future active personal endings are es et, emus etis ent. Es et, emus etis ent. So we want emus, cognoscemus. Notice it's different from cognoscimus, cognoscemus. The passive, future passive, uses the future passive personal endings for the third conjugation, as well as the third IO and the fourth. Ar, eris, etur, emur, emini, entur. So exchange emus for emur, cognoscemur. Now the perfect, the pluperfect, and the future perfect active only are formed from the perfect stem, cognovi. Chop off the I from the third principal part, cognovi, to get the perfect stem, cognob. Cognob is the stem. And then we add first person plural perfect endings. I isti it, imus istis erat, imus cognovimus, imus. The pluperfect, the endings are eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant, cognoveramus. And then the future perfect uses the endings ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erint. Now the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect passive are formed from the fourth principal part, cognitus. Make it as an adjective of the first and second declension, cognitus and make sure it corresponds to the subject. So if the subject is going to be a first person plural, this cannot be singular, cognitus Instead, it needs to be cogniti the plural masculine, the plural feminine, the plural neuter. And then it's going to be the same for the pluperfect and then also the future perfect. All that changes is the helping verb. The perfect passive uses the present tense as a helping verb. So the present tense of sum est, sumus est sunt, cogniti sumus, and it will respond to the gender and the number of the subject. So if we are masculine, cogniti sumus. If we are feminine, cognitae sumus. If we are neuter, cognita sumus. The pluperfect passive uses the imperfect of sum as the helping verb, eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratis, erant. Then the future perfect uses the future of sum as the helping verb, ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erunt, erunt for that third plural. First plural being erimus. Okay, that's the indicative. For the infinitives, present active is just going to be the second principal part, cognoscere. Because it's a third conjugation, the entire ERE will be chopped off. It'll be dropped and replaced with an I for the passive, cognosci. The perfect active infinitive is formed from the third principal part, chop off the I, cogno, and then add isse, cognovisse. The perfect passive is formed from the fourth principal part, cognitus it will respond to the number and the gender of the subject. And then it will use esse as its helping verb. It is formed very similarly to the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect passive. The only difference really is that instead of a conjugated form of sum, it uses an infinitive form of sum to tell us, hey, this is an infinitive, the perfect passive infinitive. The future active infinitive uses cognitus, add an like the word future, to get cogniturus and then add the esse to make sure it's infinitive. And then the future passive uses the fourth principal part, always and only ending in that's called the supine, the accusative supine cognitum, and the helping verb is iri, which is the present passive infinitive of eo ire, which means to go. It's about to be going to be something. For the imperatives, imperative singular active, for a third conjugation, that's the second principal part, chop off the re, cognosce. For the passive, it's the same as the second principal part, the present active infinitive. And you'll have to use context to tell the difference, which one the author intends. The imperative plural takes the present stem, cognosc, and then adds ite. And then the imperative plural passive is the same as the present tense, second person plural, passive indicative. So it's the present stem, cognosc, and then add imini, cognoscimini. Optime. That is almost a full synopsis of a verb. You're getting close. That's number one. Number two. Credo, credere, credidi, creditus. We're going to go a little bit faster this time because this is another third conjugation verb. So it forms its stems in the same way as cognosco, just with the different spellings of stems because it's a different verb. So present stem is still going to be cred, first principal part chop off O, cred. Perfect stem is going to be credid, third principal part chop off the I, credid. And the supine stem, fourth principal part chop off the us to get credit. They're going to be used in the same places as cognosco. So the present stem cred will go in the present, imperfect, future, active, and passive. So cred, 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 cred. The perfect stem credid will go here in the perfect, here in the pluperfect, here in the future perfect active, credid. And the supine creditus, we're dealing with a second person plural, so it's going to need to be crediti, plural crediti, I, also in the pluperfect, also in the future perfect. Now you're ready to go through and just add endings. Second person plural. Remember, because it is a third conjugation, the endings are going to be a little bit strange, at least for the present. You're going to have to add the letter I for most forms. It's going to be a U when it's a third person plural, unt, U-N-T. But for second person plural, it's an I, T-I-S, itis. So creditus, O-S-T, mus, tis, second plural, tis, unt. The passive, the personal endings are ar, restur, mor, mini, untur. We want mini, so add that I before mini and the stem. So we have credimini, so creditus, credimini. The imperfect has the E, the letter E before the ba, so credebatus. Then credebamini. It's a third conjugation, so it uses those third conjugation future endings s, et, amus, etis, and. So etis, credetis, with an E-T-I-S, credetis. The future passive, well, that uses the future passive third conjugation endings. Ar, eris, etur, emor, emini, entor. So emini, E-M-I-N-I, emini, so credemini. The perfect active, credidistis. Remember, the perfect stem is credid, credid. And then the endings are E, isti, it, imus, istis, erunt, credidistis. Pluperfect active, credideratis. And the future perfect active, credideritis. The perfect passive, crediti, estis, using the present tense of sum as the helping verb. Sum es est, sumus estis sunt, crediti estis. Then crediti eratis. And then crediti eritis. The infinitives, the present active is the second principal part, credere. In the passive, credi, the whole ERE is dropped. Add the I, credi. Perfect active, credidisse, because the perfect stem is credid. Then the perfect passive, creditus esse. And the future active, crediturus esse. And the future passive, creditum iri. The imperative singular would be crede, crede. Chop the RE off the second principal part. The passive is the same as the present active infinitive, so credere. Get believed. Go on, do it. Plural, take the present stem cred, add ite, credite. And then the passive, credimini. It's the exact same as this guy. The second plural, present passive indicative. Credimini. Context would tell you which one is correct. Love that context. Text without context is pretext. 3. Existimo, existimare, existimavi, existimatus. It's an easy peasy, something about squeezing lemons. First conjugation verb, got that O, then that are, then that e, then that us, and it's a third person plural. So the present stem of a first conjugation, like a second conjugation, go to the second principal part and chop off the re. So existima is the present stem. And it goes here, 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 and here in the present, imperfect, future, active, and passive. So existima in these 6 boxes. Existimav, the perfect stem, chop the I off the third principal part. It goes in the perfect, pluperfect, future perfect, active, existimav. And then existimat, supine stem, fourth principal part, chop off the us, existimat, existimat, existimat. It will act like an adjective of the first and second declension, existimatus and make it plural because the subject is plural. Existimati I. So go ahead and write existimati, existimati I, existimati I, and existimati I for the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect passive. Just need to add the helping verbs. All right, so all of these personal endings and helping verbs will be third person plural. So in the active voice, a lot of unts, nts, and the passive voice, a lot of unturs, ntur. So existimant, existimantur, existimabant, existimabantur, existimabunt, existimabuntur, existimaverunt, and let's go right here, existimati sunt, existimaverant, existimati erant, existimaverent, existimati erunt. Careful, the helping verb is erunt, erunt. Existimati erunt. The infinitives are present active, existimare, then the present passive, existimari. Change the final E to the letter I, because it's a first conjugation. Perfect active, existima, we say. Perfect passive, existimatus esse. The future active, existimaturus esse. And the future passive, existimatum iri. Imperative singular, existima. The passive would be existimare. The imperative plural active would be existimate. And the passive would be existimamini. Optime. Number 4. Intellego, intellegere, intellexi, intellectus. It's a third conjugation. You can tell by the O, R, E, us. So the present stem is the first principal part. Chop off the O because it's a third conjugation. Intelleg. And then the perfect stem is third principal part, chop off the I, intellects. And then the supine stem, intellect, chop off the us. So, first person singular, a lot of musses, M-U-S in the active, and then mur, M-U-R in the passive. And because it is a third conjugation, you're going to have to add some vowels. So the present would be intellegimus, passive intellegimur. Imperfect intellegebamus, passive intellegebamur. Future, remember the future of a third conjugation uses ames, et, amus, etus, and we want amus, intellegemus. Passive intellegemur from ar, eris, etur, amor, amini, antor. The perfect active, perfect stem is intellex, so intelleximus. Intellecti a sumus. Intellexeramus. Intellecti a eramus. Intellexerimus. Intellecti a erimus. The infinitives, present active, intellegere, second principal part, intellegere. Now, because it's a third conjugation, the passive is formed by dropping the entire ere and replacing it with an I, intellegi. Perfect active, intellexisse. Passive, intellectus esse. Future active, intellecturus esse. And then the future passive, intellectum iri. The imperative singular, intellege, intellege. The passive would be intellegere. The imperative plural would be intellegite. And the passive would be intellegimini. Optime. Number 5. Judico, judicare, judicavi, judicatus. To judge. To use dico. To speak, to say, the use, the law. To judge, to make a judgment. Second person singular. So in the active, a lot of s's, o-s-t muste sunt. In the passive, a lot of risses, r-i-s. Raristur mur mini untur, ris. So s and ris. It's a first conjugation verb, the o, are, e, us. So judica would be the present stem, so judicas, judicaris. The imperfect, judicabas, judicabaris, judicabis. Careful here, judicaberis. B as in beta, E-R-I-S, beris, judicaberis. The perfect active, judicavisti. The perfect endings are e isti it, imus istis erunt, judicavisti. Judicatus dealing with a singular person, so keep it singular. Judicatus and then es, es, sum es est, sumus estis sunt, judicatus es. Pluperfect, judicaveras, judicaveras. Judicatus eras. Future perfect, judicaveris. Future perfect passive, judicatus eris. Present active, judicare. Judicare. Present passive, judicari. Change that final E to the letter I, judicari. The perfect active, judicavisse. Judicavisse. Perfect passive, judicatus esse. Future active, judicaturus esse. Future passive, judicatum iri. Imperative singular, judica. Judge. Do it. Judicare is the passive, same as the present active infinitive. Judicate is the plural. And then judicamini would be the passive. Optime 6. Lego, legere, legi, lectus. So we have present stem, it's a third conjugation, leg, L-E-G, short E. Perfect stem is leg. Wait, what? Yes, this one has the macron though. So it's leg and leg. That E is twice as long as that E. So it's like there are two E's, leg. Hold this E for twice the duration you would this one. Lego, legit, leggy. And then lect. Lect is the stem for the supine. So make sure you add that macron over the E in the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect. So leg, leg, and leg. Macron over the E. But in the present, imperfect, and future, short E. So third person singular. Legit, looks like legit. Legit. Passive, legitor. Exchanging t, the T, with tor. Imperfect, legebat. Passive, legebator. Future, leget. Et, it's got that third conjugation future endings. Es et, emus etis ent. So leget. And the passive is legator. E-T-U-R. Okay, remember for perfect, pluperfect, future perfect, macron over that E. Legit, it looks exactly the same as the present, except it has the macron over the E. Legit and legit. Lectus est. Legerat. Lectus erat. Legerit. Lectus erit. Infinitives, the present active, legere. Because it's a third conjugation, the present passive will be legi. Change the final E-R-E to an I, legi. Perfect active, legisse. Macron over that first E, legisse. Perfect passive, lectus esse. Future active, lectorus esse. And future passive, lectum iri. Imperative singular, lege. Chop the R-E off the second principal part, lege. Passive, legere. Imperative plural, legite. It's the present stem, leg plus ite, I-T-E, legite. And then the passive, legimini. Seven. Nego, negare, negavi, negatus. Third person plural. So it's a first conjugation. So nega is going to be the present tense. So third person plural, und, negant, negantur, negabant, negabantur, negabunt, negabuntur. Perfect stem negab, so negaverunt, negati ia sunt, negaverant, negati ia erant, negaverent, negati ia erunt, erunt, E-R-U-N-T, erunt is the helping verb. We have present active negare, present passive negari, perfect active negavisse, perfect passive negatus aum esse, future active negaturus aum esse, future passive negatum iri, imperative singular nega, negare, negate, negamini. Optime. Nescio, nesciere, nescivi, nescitus. Second person plural. So tis, a lot of tisses here in the active voice, and mini in the passive voice. Nescio, nesciere, with that eo, ire, ire, is a fourth conjugation. First time we've seen one of those in this exercise. So the present stem, third and third io and fourth are grouped together. First principal part, chop off the o. So nesci means to not know, negative of skio. The perfect stem, nescib, third principal part, chop off the I, and supine stem, nescit, fourth principal part, chop off the us. So second person plural, nescitus, nescitus, nescimini. Now, for a fourth conjugation, we're just adding the personal ending to the present stem. No need to add anything else. If it were third person plural, you would add a u before the unt or the untor, but this is second person plural. Just add the tis or the mini to the stem. So nescitus and nescimini. The I is already there. For the imperfect, you still will add an e before the ba. So nesci is the stem, and then you add the e before the ba. So nesci batis. It's got an IE. Nescie batis. Imperfect passive, nescie bomini. Future active, present stem nesci, and then you add etis, because fourth conjugation uses those es, et, emus, etis, and endings. So nescietis, and the passive, ar, eris, etor, emor, emini, entor, emini, nesciemini. Perfect active, nescivistis, nescivistis, isti it imus istis erunt, nescivistis. Nesciti ia estis, nesciveratis, nesciti ia eratis, nesciveritis, nesciti ia eritis. For the infinitives, the present active, nescire, nescire. Because it's a fourth conjugation, the passive infinitive, you take the final E and turn it to the letter I. So you get nescieri. Perfect active, nesciwisse. Nesciwisse. Passive, nescitus esse. Future active, nesciturus esse. And the passive, nescitum iri. Imperative singular. For a fourth conjugation, you chop the RE off of the second principal part, so nesci. The passive is nesciere, second principal part, nesciere. For the imperative plural active, you take the present stem nesci and just add te, te. So nescite. Don't know something. Come on, hurry up. And the passive would be nescimini. Optimac. Obtineo, obtinere, obtinui, obtentus. I did not put the macron over the E, but it is there because the first principal part has an EO, has an AO, obtineo, AO. That triggers the long E in the second principal part, macron over this E, obtinere, and the accent goes there. Obtineo, obtinere, obtinui, obtentus. It's a second conjugation, so it operates a lot like a first conjugation. Both a first and a second conjugation will get the present stem from the second principal part, chop off the RE. So obtine is your present stem to go in the present, imperfect, future, active, and passive. Obtine, obtine. Perfect stem is obtinu. Third principal part, chop off the I. Obtinu, and you put that in the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect active only. And obtentus, supine stem is obtent. Obtentus make sure it's plural. So obtentii goes in the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect passive. Just needs dim helping verbs. All right, here we go. Present active of obtineo, first person plural. MUS, a lot of muses in the active voice, and murs, MURs in the passive voice. Obtinemus, obtinemus. Obtinamor, obtinamor. Obtinebamus, obtinebamor. Now, like the first conjugation, the second uses those bo, bis, bit, bimus, bitis, bunt future endings. So, obtinebimus, or obtinebimus. That sounds better, obtinebimus. And then the future passive uses obtinebimor. Bimor, from bor, beris, bitor, bimor, bimini, buntor. Perfect active, obtinuimus, obtinuimus. Passive, obtenti, sumus. Pluperfect, obtinueramus, obtinueramus. Passive, obtenti, eramus. Future perfect, obtinuerimus, obtinuerimus. Passive, obtenti, erimus. For the infinitives, obtinere, obtinere, and because we have a second conjugation, only the final E changes to an I. So obtineri. Perfect active, obtinuisse, obtinuisse. Perfect passive, obtentus esse. Future active, obtenturus esse. Future passive, obtentum iri. The imperative singular would be obtine, just the present stem, obtine. Passive, obtinere. The plural active would be obtinete, just adding te to the singular, obtinete. And then the passive, obtinemini, obtinemini. Optime. Number 10, pertineo, pertinere, pertinui, donc, nothing. Nothing there. Oh no, what will we do? I guess we're just not going to be able to fill in some forms. I'm sure you're devastated. So the present stem of the second conjugation, eo verb, that's a long ere. So present stem is pertine. Second person plural, so a lot of s's in the active and ris, ris, ris is in the passive. So pertines, passive pertineris. Imperfect, pertinebas, pertinebaris. Future, pertinebis. Future passive, pertineberis. B as in beta, E-R-I-S, beris, bor, beris, bitor, bimor, bimini, buntor. Perfect active, pertinuemus. Pertinu, perfect stem, pertinuemus. Can't form the passive. Pertinueramus. Pertinueramus. Can't form the passive. Pertinuerimus. Can't form the passive. Present active, infinitive, pertinere. Passive, pertineri. Perfect active, pertinuisse. You can't. You can't. And you can't. Darn. Imperative singular, pertine. Present stem. The passive, pertinere. Imperative plural, pertinete. And pertinemini. Optime. 11. Puto, putare, putavi, putatus. First person singular, I think. I compute. So first conjugation, present stem, that word, puta, and then putav, and then putat is the supine stem. So puta, 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 and puta, the present stem goes here. Active, passive voice, present imperfect, and future. So first person singular. Oh wait, not correct. Puto, we got a first person singular. If we have a first person singular, ding ding ding, halt, alarum. The first principal part, puto, goes here. And then the present passive, putor, putor. You take the first principal part, puto, and add the r, the r. So puto and putor. Then we use present stem for imperfect and future, active and passive. Whew, that was close. Putabam, putabar, putabo, putabor. Putawi, putatus sum, putaveram, putatus eram, putavero, putatus ero. Infinitives putare, the passive putari, perfect active putavisse, perfect passive putatus esse, future active putaturus esse, and putatum iri. Imperative singular puta. Come on, think. Passive putare. Putate, imperative plural. And then putamini for the imperative plural passive. Optime. Scio, sciere, scivi, scitus. Second person plural. To know something. So it's a fourth conjugation. Present stem is ski. Chop the re off the second principal part. I'm sorry, fourth conjugation. It's the same thing, but you chop the o off the first principal part. Like a third and third io. Chop the o off the first principal part. So ski, 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 and ski. Second person plural. So tis and mini. Scitus, skimini. Sciebatus, sciebamini. Yeah, still add the e before the ba, so you get ski, sci, and then ebatus, sciebatus, sciebamini. Scietus, sciemini. The perfect active, scivistus, scivistus. The passive, scitia estus. Pluperfect, sciveratus. Passive, scitia eratus. Future perfect active, sciveritus. Scitia eritus. Present active infinitive, sciere. It's a fourth conjugation, so change the final e to an I for the passive, scieri. Perfect active, scivisse. Perfect passive, scitus esse. Sciturus esse is the future active. And scitum iri is the future passive. For the imperatives, come on guys, know stuff. Ski, scire, scite, skimini. Come on, get known. Do it. 13. Sentio, sentire, sensi, sensus. Third person singular. So it is another fourth conjugation, so go to the first principal part and chop the o off to get senti for the present stem. And that goes in the present imperfect and future active and passive, senti. Perfect stem is sense. Chop the I off the third principal part. Sense goes here. Perfect, pluperfect, future perfect. And sense, it's the same. Goes in the perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect, but with the us, and it's singular, so it stays us, Sensus, goes in the perfect, pluperfect, future perfect, passive. So third person singular, sentit. Passive, sentitur. Sentiebat, still got that e before the ba, so you have ie, sentiebat. Sentiebatur. Sentiet. For the future, we use ames et. Aim will say to send. Sentiet. Sentietur. Perfect sensit. Sense it. Sensus est. Senserat. Sensus erat. Senserit. Sensus erit. For the present active, we have sentire, the passive sentieri, perfect active sensisse, perfect passive sensus esse, Future active censurus esse, and the passive sensumiri. Imperative singular is senti. Passive is sentire. Sentire. Sentire, same as the present active. Sentite, and then sentimini. Optime, and 14. Mitto, mittere, misi, misus. Third person plural. All right, so mitto. We have third conjugation, mitto. Present stem is mit, M-I-T-T. Perfect stem is miss, M-I-S. Supine stem is mis, M-I-S-S. So we have mittunt, U-N-T, mittunt. It's third person plural. Mittuntur, untur. For the imperfect active, we have mittebant. Passive, we have mittebantur. For the future active, we have, well, we use the, because it's a third conjugation, the am, es, et, amus, etis, ent endings, and because it's third plural, we want ent. So we have mittent, and then mittentur. Perfect mis, miserunt, one S, miserunt. Now for the passive, it's mis with an M-I-S-S, misosaum, but you got to make it plural. Misi, I-a, misi, I-a, sunt. Pluperfect active, miserant, with one S. Passive, misi, I-a, erant. Future perfect would be miserent. Passive, misi, I-a, erunt. Erunt. E-R-U-N-T is the helping verb. Present active infinitive, mittere. Passive, mitti. Perfect, mississe. Mississe. One S in the stem, mis, and then you have the isse, which is a double S, mississe, so three S's altogether. Missosaum esse, the double S of the fourth principal part, missus, and then missurus esse, also has the double S built off of the fourth principal part, missurus. And then missum iri, built off the fourth principal part, missum iri. The imperative singular active would be mitte. The passive would be mittere. The imperative plural would be mittite. Present stem mit, M-I-T-T, plus ite, mittite. And the passive mittimini. Optime, very well done. That concludes Chapter 39's This Exercise, brought to you by Mr. Freeze.